Law Talk with Nick Maruchak. Thanks to MKI Legal, your trusted employment and family lawyers.
I fought the law and the law won. I fought the law and the law won.
Yeah, Nick Maruchak's here right now, MKI Legal, ready to take some calls. If you need just something, a little bit of advice around something that's affecting you at the moment, it might be a dispute that you think you can resolve with a bit of help, 133 882. Feel free to give us a bell right now. G'day, Nick.
Hello, Gary.
I just got to tell people that we're hearing that a C-130 Hercules, now a large air tanker, is on its way from Sydney to perhaps help out with the fires. So obviously being taken very seriously how that's all looking at the moment up there. So just an update on that one. All right, mate. Hey, I think you've been taking a bit of interest. You know, we're obviously the domestic violence rally that occurred this week. Ariel Bombara, of course, the daughter of Mark Bombara, who killed two women and then himself. It's been a horrendous case, and it's drawn a lot of focus on what is in place in terms of rules and laws, etc., to try and protect women in these situations. There was some criticism of the WA government around coercive control. And I must admit, you know, it is hard to know what is in and what is not in yet in terms of legislation. You've been having a look at it. What is there right now for people to protect them?
So the definition of family violence has included these coercive control. So that's in at the moment, and it is a little broad. So it includes behaviour or pattern behaviour where someone coerces or controls a family member or causes the family member to be fearful. And it gives a bunch of examples, and the government has been doing a lot of advertising to kind of educate people, and that's their approach to this legislation. They really want to educate people so they understand. And because traditionally, when it comes to family violence in a domestic relationship, you really had to have violence or a threat of violence. But now they introduce this coercive control, and that includes stuff like isolation, right? If you're getting overly jealous, monitoring people's calls, preventing them telling someone what they can and cannot purchase, making threats, put-downs, insults. So
it can all be captured. If you are prepared to take that as a complaint, that's what they're looking at capturing.
Yeah, so that's what they and so there's a line, right? So sometimes when we all get upset, right, you have a fight with your partner and you put them down, right? So you have a one-off kind of say something in the wrong time, and can that be captured in this, right? So I don't think like a one-off situation like that, because this law really looks at a pattern of behaviour and looks at the entire relationship as a context, right? But I think these reforms are quite good because before you really had to have violence or a threat of violence, and so it was much harder to get up on this.
Yep.
But now you have these subtle things that people do in relationship where there's no physical threat that really have open the door to allow people to protect themselves.
Is it easy to prove that, in your opinion, Nick? I mean, you know, you talk about the issues of controlling what you purchase, what you don't purchase. I mean, that's difficult to prove, isn't it? That someone might say that to you, and then you go to the police or wherever you go in relation to that, and they turn around and say, "No, I never did that."
That's right. So I mean, when you apply for a restraining order, you apply for it without the perpetrator being there. So you get in front of a judge and you tell your story, and you just have to have admissible evidence. And what that means is you have to actually witness someone doing something, or there has to be some sort of evidence where an inference can be drawn that they did it. So if they've constantly telling you, hey, you can't buy this, you can't do that, then that's evidence that's good enough to get the initial interim or temporary VRO. You get that, then the other person will have an opportunity to have their say. And so once the police will serve them with a restraining order, then that person can say, all right, do I deny this or not? And then there's a trial. Then it's up to the judge who they believe. But it's very interesting the way they introduce this legislation to broaden that definition of violence.
The tracking issue. Now, that's perhaps not there yet in terms of in terms of tracking someone who has got a reputation or a record for. That's ankle bracelets and everything like that, isn't it?
Yeah. So the other part of the key reforms here is that in September they introduced a law to basically put electronic tracking on really serious perpetrators of family violence, right? So this doesn't apply to someone who's just got a restraining order against them. This applies to someone who's got a restraining order and plus serious crimes. So this stuff allows the police to have real-time tracking on them and to set up these no-go zones, basically. So if a perpetrator is released on bail and they go to the victim's house or work, the police will know instantly. Now, these laws have passed, but they haven't come in yet. But I think they're very effective legislation, basically, to give the government the power to make sure that the victim is not attacked when this perpetrator is out on bail.
In the coercive control, I mean, are you seeing more, I mean, in terms of your work, are you seeing elements of that already coming to you, that people are complaining that this is what their relationship's like when you're talking family law stuff?
Well, yeah, because in family law, basically, what we see a lot of is people separate, and sometimes someone just applies for a restraining order, and sometimes it's legitimate and there's grounds, and other times it's used for an ulterior motive. It's used for a tactic to get them out of the house, put more pressure on them. So that's why you have to balance these things, right? And it's because someone's innocent till proven guilty, and we do see restraining orders misused unfairly, but we also see them used in a very fair and appropriate way. So it's when that breakup happens, that's when it's most likely that someone will go apply for a restraining order. Something was said, recently that led up to the breakup, and then the person gets kicked out of the house. And
it's a difficult area of law, isn't it?
Yes, and
because a lot of it does come down to, well, who's more at fault in a relationship, which is sometimes hard to judge. So I take it that when you're dealing with a client, you can't go and then speak to the other side to hear what they've got to say. That's not what you do, is it? Or do you?
As a lawyer, we just have to represent our client, right? So we listen to them, we get their facts, and we put forward their case in front of the judge. We don't really make a decision on whether the person is wrong or right, provided there's evidence to support their claim. We would run it, and sometimes, we fall on the side of the good people, and sometimes we fall on the side of
and there's kids. And when there's kids involved in the middle of it, then hard to detach yourself from that, because it's pretty emotional at that side, isn't it? Yeah,
but like lawyers, our job is not to make a judgment call on who's right or wrong. The judge does that. Our job is to represent our client the best we can and get them a fair result. So that's what we have to do, and we have to put aside our personal opinion.
All right, and all that stuff, of course, at Christmas time sometimes is magnified even more. All right, we'll come back in a minute. Nick Maruchak from MKI Legal, 133 882. If you've got any questions, give us a bell right now. Yeah, it's Law Talk with Nick Maruchak. We cover a range of subjects. We just touched on one there around coercive control. Linda is there. Hi, Linda.
Hi. Yeah, I'm just ringing on behalf of my daughter. She was in a non-physical abusive relationship, coercive control, I suppose, now that we know what that means. She just finally seen the light and broken up with him. But he never worked, and she was trying to help him, and he signed up for some training course online. But because he wasn't working, the provider wanted bank details of someone who was. So he took her card. She knew he took it, but to keep him happy, and the plan was they'd deduct from her account, but he'd pay her back. Anyway, of course, the relationship's ended now. She never signed any forms or anything, but the provider are now chasing her for the outstanding debt. I just wondered where she stands legally on that.
Yeah, so did the partner, her ex-partner, force her with a bit of intimidation to give him her credit card and make the purchase? I think
so. He took the card out of her wallet while she was there. And I mean, it was a strange relationship, but she was very jealous and possessive, always checking her phone to see who she was talking to, that sort of thing. And she knows if she had said no, that he would have just gone ballistic, which was his fallback position.
Yeah, look, definitely signs there were coercive control, especially with some of the advertising we're seeing from the state government. And, she could apply for a restraining order if he is likely to commit more of that in the future. So if he's gone and there's no further contact with them, she probably can't get it. But if he comes back into her life, then that's something she can consider. Now, with a financial credit card issue, this is the question. Did she give him consent, or did he just take it out of her wallet, right? If he took it out of her wallet without permission, then he's liable for that. If he forced her through intimidation to make the purchase, that's a little more of a grey area in terms of whether she actually gave consent. I don't think she gave true consent because he forced her to make the purchase. So if he took it out of her wallet without her knowing, that could be a crime, and she could recover that cost from.
I wonder how much it was.
It was initially $7,000, and she's paid $2,000.
Wow! So this online course.
Yes, But he never completed it. Typically, he never completed it. But so she has spoken to someone at the training providing group, and they said she spoke to a really nice guy, but she didn't get his name, which was silly. He said, "Oh no, that's not good. We'll cancel the debt and refund you the money." But then as it's gone on further, they use this other company to try and pay right, I think they're called. They're the ones that try and get money. And she's getting the runaround from them, the emailing back and forward. But, I don't know whether we should take it to AFCA if they don't come to the post.
What do you think? Because there's got to be a bit of a fine line here into how far you want to go when you've finally got out of something. I don't know.
So, AFCA probably is not the right place because AFCA deals with you have to have like a credit relationship with a lender or a superannuation fund. So this is where do you know if he did it without her knowing, or is that a grey area?
She was present at the time.
Okay,
she was present.
So he could argue.
She didn't really want to, but she was put on the spot, and for him to sign up to this course, they wanted a bank detail. All right.
So you can do undue influence, right? There's something in the law called undue influence with someone where you could actually, she could potentially, if this is like a civil case in the magistrate's court, she can sue him for the debt, right? And she can argue undue influence or unjust enrichment to get it from him, right? So potentially a claim she can run, you lodge it, you see if you can solve it at mediation. The question is whether you actually want to go to that trouble, right? So that's something she might write to him and threaten that and see if they can resolve it. If they were also in a relationship for 2 years, the family court can get involved. So if they have other assets here, right? Do you know if they have children or how long this relationship was?
No assets, no. They've been in a relationship for 4 years, but both living at home because he doesn't work, so can't afford to move out.
Yeah. Okay, so like the other option is the family court, right? So the family court divide all the assets of the relationship, including this, and they can take that into account as well. But maybe try writing him a letter. Maybe have a crack at magistrate's court and see if you can get something out of him.
All right, okay. Good luck with it, Linda, those situations. Yeah, crikey. You sort of weigh up what's best. You just cut your losses now that you're out of it and all that sort of stuff.
That's the thing, right? Do you want them back in your life again?
Yep. And you have to then, once you start taking legal proceedings,
so
I don't know.
You take legal proceedings and then they'll start using all these dirty tactics against you. Then you need to get a VRO against you.
And before you know it, you never escape. Okay, Linda, thanks very much for that. Now, we did have a caller on the line, but we knew we wouldn't have time to deal with it. My apologies. So we'll try and get to that person next week. We'll keep the number and try and do it then. Appreciate you coming in, Nick.
Thank you, Gary.
Good on you, mate. It's 4 minutes to 12.